everyone. I'm Yoshiko Goda, Kumamoto University. I'm a chair of Special Interest Group 6, Technology Enhanced Language Learning. Thank you very much to join our webinar. We are very honored to have this opportunity. And the Lanshan is the one who organized APSCE Webinar series. And today, SIG6 TLL hosts this webinar. I just want to introduce some purpose of this webinar. This webinar offers an opportunity to think about how technology can enhance language vocabulary learning from various perspectives. The advancement of technology bring about innovation in language learning as well. We can learn things with new technology, not only from textbooks or the classroom, but also daily life with using AR, VR, MR, and AI, and LT, and robot. So we would like to discuss how we can use technology to enhance vocabulary learning today. Today, we have two speakers, Dr. Yanjin Son, the Education University of Hong Kong, and another speaker is Dr. Neha Hassin, Hosei University, Japan. And after presentation, we want to invite two panelists, Dr. Vivian Wu and Dr. Yuichi Ono. And this is our program today. So like 20 minutes of presentation from Yanjin Son, and then we have like a question and answer section. And then next we have another presentation from Dr. Neha, and then question and answer section. And after that, we will have panel discussion. And if you have any questions or comments, please use the QA function at the end of the screen for the questions and the comments instead of chat. Do you have any questions? Okay, let's start. So Yanjin, please. Yanjin, please unmute your microphone.
Thank you, Yoshi, for the good introduction. I'm Yanjin Song from Department of Mathematics and Information Technology, the Education University of Hong Kong. Today, I would like to present design and evaluation of an augmented reality app, VocabGo, for vocabulary learning in a seamless learning environment. This is the outline of the presentation. So now let's come to the background. Augmented reality refers to technologies that allow learners to overlay computer-generated objects in the real-world environment and make real-time interactions with the environment using a mobile device. Studies on AR-supported vocabulary learning are increasing nowadays. However, there are quite many issues raised from these studies. Some of the issues are the learning tasks in the majority of the studies have been prescribed by the teacher. Thus, learners have few chances to learn their own ways. Next, many studies have been conducted in a fixed learning space, such as in class or in a lab. Last but not least, few AR-supported vocabulary learning apps have served to bridge in-class and real-life learning activities based on the school curriculum. Against this background, we designed the app VocabGo. The aims of the design are to enhance learners' vocabulary learning engagement in authentic learning environments across different settings, improve their cognitive development in vocabulary learning, provide opportunities for learners to learn in a community by sharing their learning logs and commenting on each other's logs. And the theoretical underpinnings for the design are Mayer's generative theory, seamless learning, and Vygotsky's social cultural theory. So now let's take a look at the system architecture of the design. Here we can see the user can use the camera function of the app to scan the object, and the AI engine can identify the object, and the AR engine will add tag to the image. So now let's take a look at the Google Cloud Vision, the function of this Google Cloud Vision. So it offers powerful pre-trained machine learning models and assign labels to the image. So the AR kit, or we can say AR core, can overlay these labels assigned by the Google Cloud Vision to the objects in the real world environment as if they are actually there with you in your own space. Now, let's take a look at the 4 modes of the app. There are altogether 4 modes: Find mode, Go mode, Explore mode, and Challenge mode. And also there are another 2 features: Learning Community and My Collection. Let's go through those modes and features one by one. So the Find mode, in this mode, students can scan the real objects with identified newly learned English words included in the current learning unit. And a computer-generated quizzes will be popped up, and students can choose the type they prefer. There are 4 types of quizzes: fill in the blanks, multiple choices, spell by dropping, and speaking. Let's come to the Go mode. In this mode, students can do location-based learning tasks using the newly learned words in the current learning unit. So these tasks can be conducted physically based on location. However, during the COVID-19, it is not convenient for the students to go physically to a certain place to do the learning activity. So we designed a virtual Go mode. In this mode, students can do virtual location-based learning tasks around the world using the newly learned words in the current learning unit. And now let's come to the 3rd mode, Explore mode. In addition to the words that learned in the current learning unit, students can also freely scan the objects beyond the curriculum. We'll see the details in the demonstration video later. And also, there is a challenge mode. In this mode, students can do game-based learning activities via computer-generated quizzes about the words learned both in Find mode and Explore mode. Now, let's come to the feature of My Collection. So after the students scanned the objects, they can collect the word card, and then they will be automatically saved into categories. One is pictures with newly learned words within the curriculum, and the other one is pictures with words beyond the current learning unit. And the last feature is learning community. Students are able to share their collected word cards with pictures, comment on each other's shared artifacts, and give likes. So now let's take a look at the demo video of this app. Okay, thank you for watching. So now let's come to the evaluation section. The aims of this evaluation study is to understand student perceptions of the virtual Go mode on the VocabGo app and their learning engagement during COVID-19. The topic is fruit and color. There are altogether 15 grade 1 primary students participating in this study. Data collection include log data, questionnaire on student perceptions as well as engagement, and student interviews. And this study lasted 1 week. The pedagogical design framework for this activity design is based on the second language acquisition theory. There are altogether 5 steps for vocabulary learning: encounter the new word, get its form, and understand its meaning with form in classroom. And also in the classroom, students can use the app to support the newly learned words by using the virtual location-based tasks or location-based tasks using that Go mode or virtual Go mode. And after class, students can use the app to consolidate the word and use the word by using the find mode and explore mode as well as challenge mode. So learning happens in a seamless learning environment. And the tasks designed were situated in a virtual supermarket, packaging shop. As I said, that the topic is about fruit and color. So we put the fruits with different colors to different areas. You can see there are altogether 7 areas. If students click the orange area, then they will be directed to the virtual supermarket. And then they can look for the fruits with orange color. Similarly, if students click the purple color, then they will be directed to the supermarket again, and then they can scan the fruit with purple color. Now, let's take a look at the results. There are altogether 443 word cards collected by the students. We can see that the most popular word cards are brown, whole food, yellow, food, orange, etc. And then the least scanned words are these: bakery, bell pepper, these kind of words. And these are the examples of student collected word cards. You can see the banana, durian, blueberry, lemon, yellow coconut. All right, so now let's take a look at the questionnaire. Overall, we can see that the results of students' perceptions on the VocabGo app are quite mixed, especially in terms of perceived ease of use and self-efficacy. These 2 items got the low score. And also for the engagement, I think the students were moderately engaged in the learning activities. And the item of control got the lower score. We also interviewed students, and some of the students said that the app was very useful, and the challenge mode, and they like it a lot. And also some says, though it is easy to use, they want more guidance on how to scan the objects using the app. And they felt that the learning experience with the VocabGo was very exciting. And they gave us suggestions that we need to add the competition mechanism and also improve the recognition accuracy. And the students also said that in the future, they will use the app to support their vocabulary learning. All right, so now let's come to the conclusion section. This study reported the design of the app to improve students' vocabulary learning in a seamless learning environment. So an evaluation study was conducted, and the results show that students did use the app to consolidate and use the vocabulary learned in class related to fruits and colors. And students' perceptions of the use were mixed, and they were engaged in learning moderately. So future work based on those feedback. In terms of research, we need to conduct more empirical studies to investigate the effectiveness of the vocab goal for English vocabulary learning in a seamless learning environment in primary education, and to scale up the pedagogical practices. As for the features of app development, based on the students' feedback, we think we need to focus on improving the usability of the app features so that it will be easier for the students to use and control the app. And we need to add a letterboard and competition mechanism and develop the function of learning adjectives and verbs. And this app won gold medal in 2020 International Innovation and Invention Competition in Taiwan. So we appreciate the funding from the Departmental Collaborative Research Fund and small research grant for academic research by the Education University of Hong Kong. These are the references. Thank you very much for the listening. So that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Congratulations on the award.
Thank you.
Award winning. The vocab goal has a lot of interesting features. Please write questions and comments using the function of question Q&A at the end of the screen. We have one question to you from Ethel. In this kind of study, how will you assess if there is a retention of learning? Andrew, would you answer?
If they're, how to assess their learning if they, can you say it again?
So I think retention.
Oh, retention, vocabulary retention, right? I think we can do just now, as I said, we need to do in empirical study, and it's better to design a longitudinal study so that we can have pre-test, mid-test, post-test, and delayed test and see whether they learned the vocabulary and then the retention of vocabulary learning can be sustained. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Ethel, is it okay? Is this the answer that you want? You can unmute your microphone. Ah, okay. So good. Thank you very much. And do you have any other comments or question? Well, then I have one quick question to you, Andrea.
Yes.
So you showed the kind of results of students' preference or collection of words.
Yes.
What does the collection mean for students? They collect the words that they like, or they collect the words that they want to learn, so new words, or what does collection mean?
Thank you very much for the question. This app can support students learning new vocabulary, learn vocabulary in find mode and explore mode. Find mode refers to the words that they learned in class, and after class they can use this mode, this mode to look for the objects or the things related to the vocabulary they learned in class. And if they got, for example, the cup, and they got the cup and at home, they scan and they think this is the cup learned in the vocabulary, they can press the button collect. And then this word is collect. And the teacher will know that the student reviewed the word. And the students themselves, they will also know that they reviewed this word. And as for the words beyond the curriculum, they can use explore mode. And explore mode, they can scan whatever they want. And then they can choose the one they like. Some of the words they don't want to collect it, then just skip it. If they want to collect it, then they can collect it, press collect. And then in the future, they know what new words they learned beyond the curriculum.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you very much for the presentation. Big
Thank you.
hand.
I have
Then,
one comment.
oh,
I have
maybe
one comment.
Sure.
Yeah, a very good study and a very good in we say AR based, a game based AR tool. It's game based AR tool, and that refers to the theory that when we acquire vocabulary words, it's very good to associate the old words and with some new words to expand their word bank.
Yes.
So I think with the find mode and the explore mode, it's a very good match. So that's we have a lot of affordances. So the affordances. So this AR game-based tool will afford students to expand their expand their word list.
Yes.
Yeah. So very good connection. Yeah. So it's
Thank you very much for the comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we would like to have like a second presenter, Nehal.
Oh, yes.
Would you make a presentation, Nehal?
For some reason, I cannot keep my camera on. Could you, Alex, please turn the camera on? Like, I think the functions are kind of disabled for me. All right, I think it works now. Okay. I think I'm just showing. Okay, just give me a second.
Yeah, sure. So Nehal is working at the Hosei University in Japan now. It's located in Tokyo.
Yeah. How about now? Do you see my screen without?
Yes, perfectly. I see the screen.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Nehal S9, and I'm from Hosei University. My today's talk will be about towards understanding learning contexts and broadening word learning scopes in informal learning. Just a quick background about myself. So basically, I was born in Bangladesh, and I got my PhD from one of the universities here in Japan. And my thesis addressed a couple of issues related to vocabulary learning. And I basically got involved with this special interest group since 2018 ICCE. And since then, I just love this community. It's rather small, but very welcoming. And it's really easy to share knowledge and collaborate. And yeah, it's such a beautiful community. So I would really like to show my appreciation to APSCE and the community itself. So currently I'm working, okay, many of you probably know me from Kyoto University, but things changed over the last couple of years. And currently I'm working at Hosei University. It's in Tokyo. We have a really beautiful campus, just working with a small group of people, just 3 faculty members and some research assistants. So please feel free to visit me if you are in Tokyo. A little background about my research. So basically, since my master, I have been working on vocabulary learning, and I have been building some small prototypes, testing different functionalities of IT to solve a couple of research questions. So basically, in my today's talk, I will just walk you through with my research projects. So let me start with a quick background of vocabulary learning. So most of the researchers in this special interest group, they have been using various technologies. In my case, I'm using ubiquitous and sensor technologies. The benefit of this technology is it gives you opportunity to collect a lot of data, and it of course offers you learning anywhere, any places. However, over the years, there are several criticisms and challenges that researchers are facing. So, for example, like one of the criticism is that ubiquitous learning tools don't really offer much learning opportunities. So students get less motivated, and many research even don't know how to use this educational data to build new platform where students can interact in a more smooth way. Um, Also, another thing that we have been looking into in vocabulary learning research is like how we can make a bridge between formal learning and informal learning, because what you learn inside a classroom needs to be applied in a real life scenario. So that's how we basically learn vocabulary. And so, so yeah, most of us have been tackling this kind of research challenges. Um, Having a quick look on the literature, there have been many research happening in vocabulary learning in Asia Pacific region as well. Many researchers in this special group have been doing brilliant work. Professor Song, Lo Shang, Hiroaki Ogata, they have been doing brilliant research. There are some research systems that we always refer in our paper. Also, there are some commercial softwares that give a lot of facilities nowadays. So for example, like I find Google's word coach is a brilliant development. So here, basically, if you learn one word, the Google automatically recommends you some other words that you could possibly learn. So that's, of course, give learners more opportunities to learn and broaden their learning scopes. Google also make a instant quiz and give them kind of gamification like options. So this is a really brilliant research, in my opinion. Also, word language coach is a very interesting research. So if you have a specific purpose, for example, if you're learning a language just for traveling, you can use this app, and this app will give you a list of words and some possible context where you can use those words. So this is also a very interesting application that, of course, helps foreign language learners in broadening their word learning scopes and use those words in different learning scenario. Also, many of us here in this special group are familiar with scroll system, which is one of the last, over the last 10 years, many developments have been done with scroll projects. Here, basically, the system captures life logs, and then there is this ebook reader. So it basically connects learner in the real life learning scenario and in the formal learning context. And then the system assesses learners learning with the quizzes, and does a lot of great stuff with this system. So now, now about my projects. So basically, I started my vocabulary learning research in 2013 when I was my master's student. And then up until my postdoc years, I have been working on a project called Ibis, and I will, of course, talk about them later. And then when I finished my PhD, and then I had a great opportunity to work with Scroll project, where I've been working on developing some small tools, for example, LFO, learning from others panel. So this panel basically recommends authentic learning experiences, one person's learning log to another one. Also have been doing a little bit of research about what's co-occurrence analysis. And then there, from 2020, I have been looking the research into slightly different direction, and I will talk about them from now on. So yes, first tool that I would like to talk is Ibis. So yeah, it was basically a web-based system, and with this tool, we wanted to help foreign language learners in on-demand learning material creation. So what is on-demand learning material creation? So let's say you have a word that you want to learn, you just input it here, and then you decide which language you want to learn. And then this is the design. So basically the system automatically extracts the translation data, image data, and pronunciation data, and then it creates a 5-second long learning materials and deliver it to the learner. And the learner can record it in their learning records as a learning experience. So this is how Ibis was initially designed. And of course, we got some good feedback from research community. And after that, we built like a mobile interface in iOS and Android, where we basically used space repetition theory. Because in vocabulary learning, let's say you learn a word, and then you basically don't like to relearn it. So there should be a mechanism that keep reminding learners, like when would be the right time to learn it, or to just take a quiz just to quickly check if you remember the right meaning of the word. So yes, we designed this kind of system later as an extension to Ibis. However, in Ibis project, one of the major concern was to recommend the best image for a word that you want to learn. So in that case, I have been doing, this is complex design, but the idea was to develop a feature-based image recommendation model. So let's say you have a word you want to learn, and Google or any other image search engine has a bunch of images, but it's really hard to say which one is good for and which one you should use for learning purposes. So basically here we wanted to develop some kind of ranking algorithm. And on the left, this is a basic design of the algorithm. So in order to make this system, I basically collected images from language learners and also from instructors. So I had a small data set, like 4 of them, consisting of images for concrete nouns and for abstract nouns. And then I did some kind of feature extract. I just analyze the features and try to decide some scales, and based on that scale, the recommendation algorithm basically recommends image. So that's how I developed this AIRS system. And then for concrete nouns, it was okay. It was still acceptable, and we did some user studies just to evaluate whether this vocabulary can help learners in retaining the vocabulary. So it's more like the last question that Professor Song has just answered about retention. So in my study, I did kind of like immediate, after, short-term, and long-term memory retention with the images suggested by this system. And we found that for long-term retention, yes, this images helps. However, for short-term memory retention, it didn't really give much significant difference comparing with Google recommended images. But yes, still it gives pretty good results in my opinion. And of course, learner can choose which one they want. But for concrete nouns, it was okay, it was decent. But when it's a matter of abstract nouns, it was really abstract and it was really confusing. So what I did in that phase, like when I've been analyzing images for abstract nouns, I did a kind of categorical recommendation. So yes, this was just like an output. It's just kind of messy, and but still some when we did some kind of user study, we actually got some kind of good feedback, and many of them were happy. However, the result in terms of memory retention were not good. So yeah, of course, the results are in this paper, and I got to publish a couple of papers in good places, including ICCE and LAK. So of course, if you want to know more, please feel free to read my papers related to Ibis projects. And then from last year, I have been, so basically in Ibis, it was more like a intentional vocabulary learning. So if you want to learn one word, it just gives you learning materials. However, what if you don't want to learn, if you don't have any word that you want to learn? So therefore, there is this research about incidental vocabulary learning. So many researchers have been researching about incidental vocabulary learning. However, I am very fascinated with Professor Stuart Webb's work, and he has been looking into like how incidental vocabulary can be learned through television watching or by reading or listening. So I have been thinking, since my other project have been analyzing a lot of images, so I said, okay, why don't we use it? Why don't I use a kind of method where the system will recommend incidental vocabulary by using image analysis. So last year I built a small prototype. I just call it like ipls project. So this is how it looks. So if a user input an image in the system and clicks on the vocabulary generation, and so the AI model working behind this is just basically analyze the scenes. And of course, from the scenes, it extracts a lot of objects. And then we just rank based on each word's confidence rate given by the AI model. And I just recommended top five words to the learner. And then I connected it with Ibis system, and in Ibis, they can create learning material. So basically here, for example, if you want to learn like, okay, remote control, just click on this word and it will create a learning materials automatically. So this is how I built this system last year, and I was lucky that my paper in APSCE was accepted. However, there wasn't, the story didn't end there, because here is what IPLS work. However, in incidental vocabulary learning, when you recommend an incidental word, which is not your main purpose to learn, then you need to find a mechanism where the learner can use that incidental word in a different learning context. So if you don't associate an incidental vocabulary with a particular context, it's quite kind of hard for a language learner to accept the recommendation. So therefore, I have been looking into more like a context generation thing. And the reason I have been digging a lot about learning context is because in vocabulary learning, context is a really important factor. I think all of us will be agreeing, and there are also some research suggesting that how important meaningful contexts are for foreign vocabulary learners. However, even we have a lot of technologies, there are several ways of describing context, but it's quite hard to describe a learning context in a particular learning scenario. Also, when I used in the same line, when I analyzed Scroll's dataset, which has over 30,000 learning logs, and I just find that only 10% of the logs has learning context that are actually written by the language learner, which is describing each learning context. It's quite not something that a foreign language learner want to do. However, context is important. So on this regard, I have been trying to develop one system called, with my team, I have been trying to build a system called IU ecosystem. So IU stand for like image understanding, where basically the idea was we want to associate prior knowledge, what you learn in a different scenario, to apply it in another learning context. So what you learned in previously needs to be applied in some real life learning context, not immediately, but in the future. So yes, so here is the design of the IU ecosystem. So here I have been playing with, well, I think playing is very casual word. So I have been using Max caption generation and Microsoft services. And then I have been trying to modify, like I have been trying to integrate this AI-based sentence description models into a vocabulary learning scenario. And I extracted like 3 possible contexts from each learning log, but basically based on the image that is uploaded. So the limitation here is if there is a log without image, this system fails. This system doesn't give you anything. So an image is a must in this system. And when the system generates 3 possible contexts from each of the model, I said, okay, then I need to do something more. So I designed something called a reaction collection model. Reaction collection model is a very simple thing. So you give the recommendation to the learner, and the learner decides whether they want to accept it or not. And then we analyze that log with the exit information of the image, and then generate feedback and send it to the learner. So that's how the feedback model works. So this is also a prototype, and it's not really a very beautiful looking interface like Professor Song has just shown. So yeah, this is also very simple. So here, when you upload an image and describe what's the word that's representing the image, it basically generates 6 contexts, and the learner here can choose whether they want to accept it or reject it, or they have a neutral opinion. This assist me, I wanted to do something like a kind of chat bot related thing, but it's not really implemented at this point. So yes, and then before I do some kind of like learning effect experiment, I wanted to compare the accuracy of these AI models, because there is a huge question. There is a huge question related to the acceptability of the AI. And many researchers in linguistics, they even don't trust the AI generated things. So I did some kind of small scale study, and basically I compared 2 models' performance in terms of describing the context. And what I find with this study is Microsoft Service gives much better result comparing with Max image caption generation model. And I was lucky to get a paper published in this journal. So of course, if you want to know more about the results and how I design and develop the system, please feel free to read this one. Talking about my current projects, so from this year, actually, like since 3 months back, we have been trying to make one system that can facilitate both word recommendation and context recommendation. So I was lucky to have a Array from this year, and I have to thank Array for building this app. And he's actually working really hard to build an app which we name it like Word Hive, where we basically use of course, ubiquitous learning logs to analyze and generate like incidental vocabularies. So for example, you input an image, for example, this one, and this is your word. And then the AI will recommend something called electric locomotive. And this one user describes, but the context describe part is not integrated into the Word Hive app at this point. And just one thing I wanted to quickly mention is there is something called object detection AI. So, and something called scene analysis AI. So the scene analysis AI, it's like more of a real-time analysis. So I wouldn't say similar. However, the theory is similar with what Professor Song has just shown. So you keep your camera on, point your camera to an object, and it will give you which word you want to learn. And then you choose which one you want to learn, and we just save it. However, we don't recommend to learn incidental vocabularies right away. We keep it for some kind of certain period of time. And from the research perspective, currently I'm doing some kind of user studies. Yes, so basically the system recommends learner incidental vocabulary after a certain period of time, like 7 days or 1 month even. So yes, I'm currently conducting some kind of user studies. With Corona, it's really hard to find participants. So the experiment is not really going that fast, but I'm currently doing this experiment with university students. And of course, I was lucky to get a couple of papers accepted recently related to this project. So a quick overview, I have been working on computer-assisted vocabulary learning, mainly designing small systems that could help foreign language learners in enhancing their vocabulary. I've been also researching about image recommendation models and context recommendation models, and also how can we recommend words in a particular learning locations. However, there are several issues that we need to discuss and solve. For example, like when I do research, we have a lack of rich and culturally diverse data set for analytics. Also, we need to work on how can we improve analytics for better decision making for language learners. And one of the things I have been mentioning is the trustability from the point of view of learning science. So that's another thing that we need to discuss in this community. And also another thing, basically this AI can only detect objects that are concrete. However, what will happen with other kinds of vocabulary like abstracts or just a phrase? So those kind of issues still need to solve. So that's all about my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Nehal. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Please write Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Do you have any comments? No. there are so many projects.
Yes,
And
because I
how-
couldn't make it. I didn't have a lot of fund, so I couldn't make it in one project. So it's just all like small things basically involved in my project.
yeah,
So
I'm wondering, what do you mean like a context? Like a
so
context learning and then importance of context, we agree, but it's really difficult to define a context when we like consider the vocabulary learning.
that's a very good question. In these projects that I'm
Mhm,
currently involved in, we decide the learning location plus the surrounding environments,
mhm,
because we are analyzing images in these projects. So we need kind of surrounding environments and the particular learning location where you have been learning. So these two parameters basically decides the learning context.
I see.
So
Usually when we say like learning meaningful context, like we have some purpose of learning or some goals, or so just location or time or that kind of thing can be a context. That
oh,
kind of, yeah, I'm wondering
yeah,
if
however,
if the like definition of your context can be a meaningful context for learning. That's kind of difficult to define a context, I guess.
yes, well, yes, probably there is a little bit deviation in my project because again, most of my projects rely on the image. So which
Mhm,
means we need some kind of visual clues of the current learning circumstances, whether you are inside a classroom or you are like walking in the street.
mhm.
So some kind of visual clues are very important in this case. Um, and of course, for the learning purposes thing, when a user subscribe into these services, they state that my main purpose of learning is like, let's say, job hunting or
Right.
enhancing vocabulary.
Mhm.
However, when I try to recommend context, I honestly don't use that information.
I
That's
see.
probably a kind of limitation with the current projects.
Mhm. Okay, thank you very much. Do you have
You,
any okay, we have question. Kaye? So from Kaye Nakaya, we have a comment in question. So thank you for introducing your interesting system. Does this system use only images? For example, if a learner learns some vocabulary, a short movie may be more effective rather than image. What do you
oh,
think?
well, yes, yes. Um, yes, basically for verb learning, of course, movies have much more impact in
Mhm.
terms of memory retention comparing with a still image. However, at this point, we are probably mainly focusing on noun acquisition. So yes, at this point, yes, the system don't really, I mean, of course, you can create a learning material for verbs, but it wouldn't recommend you some kind of moving object. So there is no functionality in the system that can animate and still image to a moving object.
Okay, thank you very much. And okay, so thank you very much, Nihal.
Thank
Thank
you very much for the
you.
opportunity. Thank you.
Now we are moving to the panel discussion. So I would like to invite two panelists. Just a minute. Okay. So we finished two presentations. Yanjie introduced her application, and Nehal introduces his projects. And we would like to invite two panelists, like Vivian Wu, Dr. Vivian Wu is from Asian University, Taiwan, and Dr. Yuichi Ono from University of Tsukuba, Japan. And Vivian is a specialist for AI and robots. application to language learning as well. And UEG is now using application of learning analytics for language learning. So I would like to ask first one question, like what are difficulties of current technology enhanced vocabulary learning? There are several problems that Yanjie and Nehal proposed already, but what do you think of the difficulties? Vivian,
Yes.
would you do first?
From my understanding, with the technology, with the advancement in technology, and that makes vocabulary learning much, way easier compared to the traditional mode of vocabulary learning, such as like word cards or like, the kind of flashcards. But my question is that with the VR, AR, VR, this kind of invention, okay, but still, learning vocabulary still, stays on the kind of very concrete vocabulary words, level with the image, with the pictures, or with AI technology. But we still learn most of the vocabulary words that we have students, acquire or learn is, kind of noun, we say noun, or objects, associate, nouns. And Nihao, you mentioned that it maybe in one of the systems that you develop, you are trying to teach a student how to learn abstract, right? Nouns.
Yes.
But how can the technology overcome, the obstacle of, learning vocabulary, on the kind of only object or image level? Yeah, like verbs, or she would say adjectives, or even like in a phrases, like American idioms, this kind of beyond that, concrete, level. Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's the difficulty. So do you have an answer, like learning beyond the concrete, level of vocabulary words?
Well, I think one of the ways that we can look into problem is we use concrete objects as a trigger to teach abstract nouns.
Yeah, in what way? Can you be more specific?
Okay, well, probably let's say sentence descriptions. So for example, like I love money. So for example, somebody wants to love let's learn money. Okay, that's a concrete noun. We can find some image. However, we can use money as a trigger to teach love, for example. But the question is how? Well, that's probably that there we need a way to describe it, like it's probably related to more of a sentence construction thing. Maybe we need to build some kind of technology that can recommend a sentence that has a combination of abstract and concrete nouns. Or I don't know if that makes sense, but
yes.
So
yeah, that's also associated.
For example, like let's say in a system, I'm just thinking it now. Let's say there is a system where students specify that my objective for using this system is to learn abstract noun. Okay, my primary goal is to learn abstract noun. However, he or she learned a concrete noun. So maybe the system could automatically tell, let's say he learned money. However, his objective was to learn abstract nouns. So maybe we could use money to generate some sentences which contains like love or some other abstract nouns in it. But that's also raised a lot of designing problem and how we would use AI for doing this kind of sentence recommendation.
Yeah, that's a little bit really difficult, I guess. Yanjie, do you have any opinions? So your application also focusing on like objects or nouns, right? So do you have any plan to expand your applications or?
Thank you very much for the very good question raised from Vivian and also Yoshi. And we admit that there is limitations So the vocab goal, our target users, we aim our target users at kindergarten or primary school students, lower primary school students, so that during that period, they learned more nouns, nouns, concrete nouns. And we plan to add the function of identifying adjectives later. But in addition to that, we are developing a new app called Vocab Plus. This Vocab Plus, not Vocab Go, it's Vocab Plus. And this Vocab Plus aimed at upper primary school students. And in this Vocab Plus, we embed self-regulated learning mechanism in that app, so that the student, they can set their goals, monitor their learning process by that letterboard, and also make reflections. This Vocab Plus app allows students to take pictures instead of scan, but take pictures. So even there are some verbs or adjectives, they can still, if it is a verb, then they can act. If it is an adjective, they can also act. Angry or angry, they can act. And then besides this function, we also provide opportunities for students to do collocation. In this app, they can do collocation so that they know how to use the word they generated. There is another function that is learning community, and there they can also describe the context of using this word and then exchange with friends and give comments. So that's our further development, and it's almost done. At the end of this month, we are going to apply this app in a university in mainland China. Okay.
Yeah, it might be a good way to kind of solve the problem, since the learners collect the words that they want to learn or they want to express in the target language. That might be one a possible solution for this kind of thing.
So in adapt to those single words, they can also use collocation and make sentences.
Right.
And exchange with students.
That's good. Thank you. But do you have any opinions or additional comments?
Yes, thank you very much. Firstly, thank you very much for very interesting presentations. I was very excited. I'm gonna want to use it right now. Actually, thank you very much. And maybe my comment starts with the basic traditional observation about vocabulary language learning in terms of second language acquisition. That is, as Nehal starts discussion with the distinction between incidental vocabulary learning versus intentional vocabulary learning. The former is a really incidental or context dependent entity, while intentional language learning crucially relies on how the instruction or intervention from the teacher decides the range of the vocabulary. And the other side, from the cognition of the vocabulary learning, we usually know that a top-down approach, that's the Nehal are trying to that. Image comes first, and top-down way, we try to understand lots of words with relevance to the given situation. And as San Yanji, explained collective words and the bottom-up approach and create some new world or network to be developed in the near future. So maybe it is general agreement that both approach are necessary in total when we really develop our vocabulary. So in terms of this point, both factors are very important. Of course, for beginner learners, kind of the correction is also right and start with very concrete nouns. However, this is also traditional research before AI or VR times, so as a video viewing with captions, it's a typical research relevant to this kind of issue. Okay, but movies comes first and caption there. So maybe students are very focused to some certain words, but they unconsciously understand what is the context behind that with the full use of L1 knowledge. So therefore, it is highly possible that given the sufficient input there, maybe there are lots of possibility for extension to the incidental learning. So therefore, we firstly, this is kind of a challenge, but I believe that it is true. Given some words and try to create the connection as a vocabulary network and expand it to a further advanced level. Maybe this might be a basic idea for this kind of issue. So in terms of this point of view, yeah, Nehar is very interesting because, image creates a lot of things.
Nowadays, like we take pictures wherever we go, and some of them we posted in social networks. So basically my tool is kind of linked with the SNS. So
Right.
let's say even though your main purpose is not to learn with that image, but it's just to share with friends.
Right.
But at one point you probably, maybe it's not instantly, but maybe at some point, maybe 2 weeks or 1 month later, then you decide to learn that word. Then you can actually use it, drag it as a learning record to the system.
Yeah, right. So collaboration is a very key part in this thing, in terms of the social, collaborative learning, or in any kind of theory usually predicts that way, right? So maybe in this point of view, yeah, AR, VR approach, or any type of vocabulary system with a collaborative possibility, maybe have a lots of chance to solve and conquer this kind of very traditional big challenge. Very, abstract idea, but this is my first opinion about this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ruchi. So collaboration is a new word for this discussion. So what do you think about like a collaboration can be, how you can use collaboration to provide more opportunity for learners to learn a vocabulary? Yanjie?
You mean use collaborative learning strategy to enhance the student learning? I think that there are many opportunities in terms of the app that I developed. My team and I developed, for example, VocabGo. We can assign the Go mode, the learning tasks in the Go mode to groups. So the group can work together to find out those words. And also they can share their collections among groups and then give comment. During this process, they need to use the word to communicate with each other. We use sentences with the newly learned words to communicate with each other. And this is specifically derived from my, if we design the pedagogical activities using the VocabGo, we can design this way. But there are many other ways to use collaborative learning strategy to enhance students' vocabulary learning. First, I think the most important thing is the pedagogical design instead of the tools or the app. If we can use the simplest technology to develop students' collaborative vocabulary learning very effectively. For example, we can use the Padlet, Padlet or Linoret. That's the simplest technology. So maybe we can ask the students work, for example, to find out nutritious food and junk food. So the students can work together to find out what are the junk food, what are the nutritious food, and then they post the things together and summarize and make reflections. So I think the key thing is not technology, is the pedagogical design.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much. How about Nihal?
I totally agree
think-
with the Professor Salt's idea. However, in my projects, when it's a matter of collaborative learning, but basically, I think it's okay. But basically, my projects are mainly for adults. I would say it's still not covering children. So, but when it's a matter of like teaching adults and just like letting them use in an individual way, so there is no classes where we can use this technology and make a group inside a big class. So it's basically you're using by your own. So it's kind of, I always face the collaborative mechanism is a bit challenge here in terms of who you want to make a pair with. So let's say you have 10 users and none of them know each other. In 1 year back, I have been doing some kind of profile similarity to recommend. However, and not just word-based recommendation and making a kind of collaborative learning scenario. But yes, I also face a little bit problem when it's a informal learning scenario where everybody has their own identity. They don't belong to the same class. They probably have a very different intention and different purposes. It's kind of hard to use collaborative learning theory in my study design. So that's a little bit challenge for my study. But of course, I love the collaborative learning part. I think it's a popular mechanism to embed in a system for enhancing vocabulary.
Yeah, listening to kind of the discussion among us, just I feel like a collaborative learning itself might give a context for like a student to learn the vocabularies or other things in language. And I just wondering, maybe you can think about a chatbot or other robot if you have difficulty to let adult learners in a group or pair for collaborative learning. Vivian, what do you think?
Oh yes, sometimes you have to like connect the apps or whatever VR tool, AR tools with the classroom instruction. So I guess Yanji is partially right about like combining the both. But as Nihao says, sometimes if the users are kind of spreading out all over the world, we cannot kind of get them together in one class. So might be also difficult to combine the tools, any kind of tool, technological tools with classroom instruction. So I would say, maybe in the future, maybe can some of the maybe apps, as Yanji says, some of the apps, the VR tools can be expanded, like further. To include the application part of the vocabulary learning. Most of the vocabulary apps, whatever tools, are only, focused on from the Bloom taxonomy, focusing on memorization or understanding level. Like for example, recognizing the words and the spelling, pronunciation. But think about how the apps can be, whatever technological tools can be expanded, to the next level for more or advanced learners, where the learners are able to apply the vocabulary into their daily life or daily conversation. Yeah, something like that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a comment on the chat.
And probably Professor Song have been answering a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Rather, probably we should be a little bit interested into robot-assisted vocabulary learning as well. I think Professor Vivian have been looking into how can we use robots in vocabulary learning. Also, I'm particularly interested into learning analytics as well. Like, I think one of the issues I also personally face is to have a clean data set where we have diverse data from different cultural backgrounds, because culture has a very big influence in the way we learn vocabulary. So I would also be interested to know like how we can use learning analytics to have a better prediction or recommendation. But I mean, my questions are open to actually Professor Ono and Professor Vivian. I would love to hear their opinion.
I mean, learning vocabulary,
Yes.
with the educational robots.
Assisted learning in designing vocabulary learning classroom, for example, or a vocabulary learning pedagogy.
Yes, okay. And I have created, with my research partner, several generations of robots, so-called educational robots. And the robots that we created, so-called teaching assistant robots. So just like Yinjie said, it's always, the technology has to be, combined together with the classroom instruction. So in the teaching assistant robots that are created, robots has been used as teaching assistants, and some like repetition and very time consuming and very like tedious, like practice or drill and practice, like pronunciation teaching, how to spell the words, how to spell the word. Those kind of tedious actions or repetition can be replaced by the teaching assistant robots. And the students, they won't feel humiliated. They won't feel like they do not need to afraid of losing their faces when they practice, with the teaching assistant robots. So that's basically, my like a research, and apparently they lower their like speaking anxiety, and also while increasing their motivations to study, like vocabulary, to study conversation. Yeah. So they feel it's more like interesting. They feel more interested, and they feel more motivated when they have to, when they practice, with like robots. Yes.
Interesting.
Like learning analytics can be used for vocabulary learning, I guess. Previously, like the learning analytics became so popular. Like now, we like a language learning field, we have like a corpus kind of research. So if we combine a corpus and also learning analytics, we might provide better kind of practice, meaningful practice to students, I guess. But what do you think, Yuichi?
Yes, yeah, just Yoshiko introduced what I want to say. Yeah, I totally agree with Yoshiko. Yeah, in that, more, sophisticated database should help a lot when providing appropriate, better way to give, for example, model sentences first. For example, in my actually, I am not, professional about creating robot or creating a system, but just user base. I love to use, Siri, for example, Apple iPhone, because every student are very much familiar with the use of Siri, and just a simple conversation helps them a lot about the finding out a new vocabulary or new images, new stories about that, and things like that. Of course, it is not controlled by the instruction. The intervention is not involved here. So maybe we need to consider a lot about that. But just for the opportunity to catch up with, or expand their knowledge to the other world, and on the basis of this topic, we could discuss if they were in the classroom. It's not a system way, but in a face-to-face way, but they are actually communicate on the basis of the shared context about the provided by the AI or database or anything like that. So maybe my point is that very, straightforward in a sense, where a collaboration exists, lots of interaction there. So that's, learning analytic possibility expands, where such a, interaction occurs. And, by use of the corpus or database, anything like that, that might be helpful. And recently AI approach would produce a better option for the model sentences, anything like that. It should create a new way to connect, self-based, more system-based learning and their cognitive learning as well, in a sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, AI. Since now, like I am involved of kind of chatbot use for language learning, but currently AI is too smart, so they learn like a student's mistake as a correct like vocabulary choice or something like that. So we have to be careful about that. But we can use AI or like a good database, say corpus, to provide a better practice materials.
About AI-based chatbot. I don't know if you guys remember in my presentation, there was one part. I have been actually trying to use like AI-assisted chatbot for answering questions to my student. So let's say the initial image-driven AI recommends you some context, and then maybe you're not really happy with that. Okay, and then I, of course, give them option. Would you like to accept it, reject it, or what's your opinion, neutral? And then none of them, let's say the learner is confused with this image. And then I actually wanted to design, not build from scratch, but I wanted to integrate one AI where a learner can actually ask question to the chatbot, like, okay, I'm confused with this AI. Should I accept? Which one should I accept? Do you think, is there any AI smart enough to answer that kind of question?
But what do you think, Vivian?
I'm afraid of not. This current level of technology, yeah, because AI needs a lot of like database, a lot of data, huge huge amount of data, and in order to make AI smarter, and can respond to any of the questions raised by any of the learners. Still, I think we still have more like room to make improvement, to go further.
Currently, it's a little bit difficult, but maybe in the near future.
I have used several like chatbots, like in Taiwan, like Andy. I'm not sure Yoshiko, you are familiar with Andy. It's one type of chatbot, but can only respond at a very minimum level. Maybe for very younger learners, like for elementary school or maybe for kindergarten students, that might work quite well. And again, probably not for like intermediate or much more advanced level learners, yes. But we consider it's still useful and it's still valuable. Yeah, using like chatbots, AI chatbots.
Yeah, I think so.
For sharing your thought. I have a question to Professor Song. It's a very simple question because we are probably using similar kind of object detection method. One thing I was wondering, are you making your own, are you training your own model, or are you just using some kind of AI as a web service and using it to detect the object?
Nihao, thank you very much for the question. I have to admit that we use the existing machine learning trained model.
I also use that, don't be sad. I'm not training my own model. I'm just using as a service.
Yeah, but I found that the technology you used is more advanced than I do.
I have a different opinion. I thought your technology is smarter than mine. Using technology developed by maybe you're familiar with Megvii, one of the Chinese deep learning company, Megvii. So I use their deep learning model. Actually, it's my RS idea, and I'm comparing it with Microsoft's and IBM developed models. So it's kind of popular nowadays. But when I saw your demo, in my opinion, it's just a personal opinion that your AI is giving much more better accuracy and detecting the objects more accurately than Microsoft. Which service are you using? I'm curious.
The service, we just used that Google I showed you, that Google Cloud.
Oh, Google's object detection.
Object, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I'm not using Google service. I'm just using Microsoft service at this point.
But there are quite many limitations in Google. There aren't many images trained in that.
Yeah, I think because it would be really nice to take all those words that user gives, because in your model, you point camera on some objects, it gives them the description, right? The noun and then the descriptions, and then you are saving them to somewhere in the database, right?
Yes.
And then it would be really nice to use those data to make a pre-trained model. And then maybe we can have, like, we can say that, okay, our model is trained on Google. However, we have our own educational trained model. Kind of.
Maybe in the future.
Yeah, I think I would also be very interested to.
I need to learn from you.
No. Your RA knows that, I'm sure.
Thank you. So that's we are almost close to the time. So
I think
the last question we can think.
For me, probably from Kai Nakaya. Well, since a comment, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, I think there is one comment.
It's like
someone.
Kai is a comment on kind of integration of nouns and verbs, a little bit difficult. But it's interesting to know what kind of images can be used to learn nouns and verbs more appropriately.
Well, from my personal research, what my model recommends is for nouns, it's the object is located in the middle of the image. So try to rank images where the actual object is located in the center position. And the width is bigger, so that for a language learner can easily recognize the object. So that's how we recommend images for nouns. For verbs, of course, first thing, I agree that a moving object has much more impact for learning. However, at this point, my model's image recommendation for verb is same as noun. So sadly, we don't do any moving object at this point. But thank you very much for the comment.
Okay, thank you.
I answer your question.
And we have another comment on the chat. So IH1 gave us the comment. So it's really difficult to find one solution for like all problem to solve. So like we can say like a solution A for like problem A, or solution B to solution like problem B. Then I think like we are according to our discussion like about context given, maybe we can use kind of collaborative work or collaboration, or maybe we can use AI and robot for the collaboration when we have difficulty have collaborative learning. Do you have any other like additional comments for IH1's comments? And
just one comment from me. So totally right. It is very, very difficult, I know, and there are lots of problems when we challenge with one method. It is true. But as far as technology is concerned, in general, why not try once again? Because technology have lots of incidental learning opportunity by use of technology. Firstly, and secondly, if teachers or instructors, have a kind of a clear intention about the explicit instruction about the knowledge in terms of the enhanced input of the words or images, context. So it surely helps learners a lot with the possibility to learn incidentally or accidentally or intentionally. I don't know. Lots of knowledge possibility appear here. So anyway, collaboration to the other fields must be a key concept for the moment. Creating a more secure possibility to answer the question. But of course, we need to welcome lots of other answers as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's almost a time to finish. Do you have any other comments that you really wanna say at the end? Vivian?
Really nice to connect mobile
Oh,
assisted
good.
language
Yeah.
and robot assisted language learning together.
We might have a lot of opportunity for collaboration among us as well. Today, yeah, we discuss, and it's a good time and discussion, I guess. Vivian, Eugene? Okay.
I don't have any other comments. I just felt very much grateful for the opportunity provided by the APSCE organization and to provide the chance for us to present, share, and discuss together.
Absolutely. I would also like to show my
Very interesting.
Can I say something?
discussion.
Yeah.
Sure, Vivian.
Yeah, and I just now I did not I mute my microphone, so that's why I was talking, nobody listened. Sorry, I forgot to unmute my microphone. Yeah, thank you very much for the two speakers, and you guys in the top inspire me a lot, and I'm looking forward to maybe my future research collaboration with Nihao and also with Yanji's team. It seems Yanji's team is very powerful because you won the Taiwan's award. Is that the award awarded by Taiwan? Did you say that? That the award? Wow. Yeah.
It's an international event, but organized in Taiwan.
Organized by Taiwan. Okay. Yes. And yeah, I did learn a lot from your talk. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the future collaboration, also the advancement of technology in helping the EFL learner to learn vocabulary in a much better and efficient and effective way. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution and thank you for your work done in this field. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much all. And now I would like to close the seminar. So I'm now doing the SIG chair for C6, like a technology enhanced language learning. If you are interested in the SIG and or collaboration with us, please send me email, and then I distribute the question to the speakers and panelists. Thank you very much for joining our webinar today. I hope to see you at the ICC 2021 soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.
See you.
See you.
See you in November in Thailand.
Yeah. See you.
Stay safe by then. Get vaccinated.
Yeah.
We look forward to collaborate with you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.